Hi there, Daniel Kremer for Trailers from Hell. Start spreading the news that I am celebrating this often derided and often overlooked Martin Scorsese masterpiece. Yes, it is a masterpiece, and I want you all to be a part of it. New York, New York. Believe it or not, this is the first Scorsese movie that I ever saw. I was all of 10 years old, and I have never forgotten that experience. I've seen it many times since, and always get a lot out of those rewatches. It is top of the heap for me. So let's not step around the heart of it. I want you all to feel like you are king of the hill as we tag along with Robert De Niro and Liza Minnelli, both on the road and in the Big Apple. You make it there, you'll make it anywhere. Even if you're not so crazy about the film, let's consider some of its cooler aspects. It features Dick Miller in a couple scenes, that's just for starters. And who doesn't love the great Lionel Standa? The sets by the Oscar-winning Boris Levin are fabulous, and it spawned one of the 20th century's most iconic songs. So it's up to you, New York, New York. Trailer time.
It was 1945. The war was over, and the world was falling in love again.
So, full confession, the first time I ever heard the song New York, New York, it was in Joe Dante's Gremlins 2 when it was first out in theaters. Thankfully, my first viewing of this fabulous Scorsese film was in its full 164-minute cut with the happy ending sequence intact. And I remember being perplexed by this narrative detour. To explain, around 2¼ hours into the movie, the story stops cold for about 11 minutes of screen time to show us a film within the film, a loving homage to classic musicals with similar sequences. It was my entryway into the so-called musical detour sequences I would encounter later, like the Broadway melody sequence in Singin' in the Rain, the Born in a Trunk sequence in A Star is Born, and the dream finale of An American in Paris. But movie audiences in 1977 didn't see this happy ending sequence when New York, New York was first released to theaters in a 153-minute version. Scorsese was convinced to chop out this risky sequence, and the film flopped. Then it was additionally cut down to 136 minutes. But in 1981, United Artists Classics approached Scorsese to reinstate the happy ending sequence for a special re-release. It gained something of a new audience, and that's the version that we see out in the market today. This is the film that Scorsese made immediately after his triumph with Taxi Driver, and he was basically given studio carte blanche for this grand experiment. What's the experiment? Placing raw improvisational acting in front of the heightened artifice of Boris Levin's sets, which pay homage to the artifice of the sets in classic Hollywood musicals and melodramas. New York, New York is also a loving tribute to the big band era, even casting real 40s bandleader Georgie Auld in the role of fictional bandleader Frankie Hart. Auld actually dubbed in De Niro's own sax playing in the final cut, though De Niro did take intensive saxophone lessons leading up to the production, and by most accounts he got quite good at it, but not good enough to pass the smell test for saxophone experts. Scorsese is at his most exploratory here, and as a result his budget ballooned to $14 million, which doesn't sound like a lot today, but in 1977 it was quite large. Along with Peter Bogdanovich's At Long Last Love and William Friedkin's Sorcerer, which was released the same year, New York, New York is credited with contributing to ending the halcyon period of O-tier director rule in 70s Hollywood. Just a few years later, Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate quashed that era once and for all, toppling United Artists in the process along with it. I would personally argue that you can look at all these films today and feel a consummate, often sublime craftsmanship. Liza Minnelli was also never better, in my opinion. To me, this easily eclipses her Oscar-winning performance in Cabaret. And if you ask me, La La Land owes a big debt of gratitude to New York, New York. Scorsese's movie is far, far better, though, in my opinion, because of course it is.
It's beautiful while it lasts. Liza Minnelli, Robert De Niro, New York, New York.